Senu and Barikadezoa. Last week, we talked about the forgotten bird. We learned that we should not judge a book by its cover. We should not take for granted anyone, irrespective of their size, their height, their shape, or their physique. We also learned that a rejected stone can become a chief cornerstone. So today's topic is titled How the Tortoise Married the King's Daughter. It was written by Remi Adedeji. Enjoy. Story. Once upon a time, there was a king who had a very beautiful daughter, and every man who knew her wanted to marry her. But it was not easy to marry a king's daughter because anyone who wanted to marry her had to pass two difficult tests. Listen, the very first test was to drink boiling hot water, and the second was to stay in a room full of mosquitoes without making an effort to drive them away. Several men had tried and failed. None of them could drink boiling water, and neither could stay in a room full of mosquitoes. Thus, for a long time, the king's daughter remained unmarried. But the tortoise was determined to marry the king's daughter. He said to himself, I shall pass that test. I shall marry the king's daughter. The following day, Tortoise went to the king. May you live long, Kabiesi, he said. I am here to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. You? Asked the king in surprise. You marry my daughter? Yes, Kabiesi, I want to marry your daughter, Tortoise replied. Do you know what you must do to marry my daughter? The king asked. Yes, I do, replied Tortoise. I must drink boiling water and stay in a room full of mosquitoes without slapping any part of my body, either to kill or drive them away. Are you sure you can do this? Asked the king. Of course I can, replied Tortoise confidently. All right, said the king. Come to my palace tomorrow for the first test. Tortoise said to the Kabiesi, Kabiesi, I have a request to make. What is your request? Asked the king. I would like to bring along to my palace all my relations. I would like them to watch me as I undergo the test. That is all right, said the king. Bring them along. The next day, Tortoise went to the palace with all his immediate families and extended family. He went with his father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, sisters, brothers, uncles, aunts, nephew, nieces, and cousins. There were about 50 of them, and then he made them all sit down. The crowd present were surprised but did not say anything. After everyone had settled down, the king came out and sat on his throne. 3 of his wives sat to his left, while the other 3 sat to his right. The beautiful daughter sat on his stool before him, and the chief surrounded him. When everyone had settled down, a big bowl of very hot water was given to Tortoise. But instead of drinking it straight away, Tortoise went to his father and said, Father, here am I. I love the king's daughter very much. Indeed, I want to marry her. But before I can marry her, this boiling water I must drink. I need your blessing, dear father, before I drink this water. Tortoise's father placed his hands on his son's head and with his head bowed said, Dear son, my blessing I give to you. May you drink the boiling water and live. Live to marry the king's daughter. So may it be. Amen. Next, Tortoise went to his mother and said, Mother, here am I. I love the king's daughter very much. Indeed, I want to marry her. But before I can marry her, this boiling water I must drink. I need your blessing, dear mother, before I drink this water. Again, Tortoise's mother placed her hand on her son's head, with her head bowed, said, Dear son, my blessings I give to you. May you drink this boiling water and live. Live to marry the king's daughter. So may it be. Amen. In this way, Tortoise went round all his relations, saying the same thing and receiving blessings from each one of them. By the time he had approached everyone, the water, which at the beginning was boiling hot, had become cold. He then drank the water. The crowd that had gathered clapped and shouted, Tortoise had done it. He had drank the boiling water. People rushed to congratulate him, and Tortoise felt very proud. The king then reminded Tortoise, "But you still have to pass the second test." "I am ready for that too," said Tortoise, feeling as confident as ever. "Take him to the mosquito room," the king ordered. The tortoise was taken into the mosquito room. Even the men who led Tortoise there could not help trying to swat or kill some mosquito that tried settling on them. Tortoise was to be there for 30 minutes. 3 guards were posted at the entrance of the room to watch him. Tortoise was not worried. Instead, he decided to tell the guards a story about his father's beautiful horse. "My father's horse has the most unusual and beautiful coat color," he said, "at the back." And then he slapped his back where mosquito was biting him. It had a black spot. Again, he paused. "On its chest." And then he slapped his chest where 3 mosquitoes had settled. It had a white patch. All the while, the guards listened with great attention as he spoke, describing the various coats of the horse and slapping each part as he talked about it. By the time he was done, 30 minutes had passed and he came out boasting. "As you can all see, I have been able to stay in the mosquito room without feeling uncomfortable." "Yes, of course you have," said the guard, and each of them congratulated him. They led Tortoise to the king. "Kabiyesi," they said, "Tortoise has passed the second test. He was able to stay in the mosquito room without showing any sign of discomfort." "Very well," the king said to Tortoise, "you can marry my daughter." So Tortoise married the king's daughter and they live happily ever after. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for listening. Join me next week as I tell you more tales from Moonlight stories. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Say gobe and stay blessed.